Why do they look at me with such fear in their eyes? I've never wanted to hurt anyone. These scars on my body weren't my choice. Every morning, as I wake up in this cold concrete pit, I remember the life I was forced into. The metal chains around my neck remind me of what they expect from me. But deep inside, I know I'm different. The distant sound of cars passing by reminds me there's a world beyond these walls. The air here is always thick, with the metallic scent of blood and the musty odor of fear. Through the wire fencing, I can see other dogs like me, scarred, muscular, and scared. The constant barking echoes off the walls, a chorus of pain and desperation. Sometimes, when the night falls, I can hear the whimpers of those who didn't survive the fights. The darkness brings no comfort, only memories of battles I never chose. I wasn't always here. My earliest memories are of warmth and gentle hands, a young family that brought me home as a puppy. Their children's laughter used to fill my days with joy, and I would guard them with all my heart. But everything changed when the man with cold eyes came, offering money to my family. That moment replays in my mind like a nightmare that never ends. The day they handed my leash over was the day my world shattered. Gone were the soft beds and loving touches, replaced by harsh commands and painful training. They starved me to make me aggressive, beat me when I showed kindness. The worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was watching my gentle nature being twisted into something I never wanted to be. Each day, I felt pieces of my true self slipping away. Training days blur together in my memory, marked by the sting of the metal pipe they used to toughen me up. The other dogs here share similar stories. We're all victims of the same cruel system. Some days they would parade female dogs in front of us, using our natural instincts to fuel aggression. Everything about us was weaponized. I learned to growl when all I wanted was to wag my tail. The sound of approaching footsteps sends shivers down my spine now. Every morning brings the same routine: the rough hands, the shouting, the pain. My muscles have grown hard and strong, but my heart feels weaker with each passing day. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the water bowl. I barely recognize myself anymore. The scars tell stories I wish I could forget. They keep us in the basement of an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. I can smell the river nearby, its fresh scent, a cruel reminder of freedom. Through small cracks in the walls, I watch the seasons change, leaves falling, snow drifting, spring rain puddles forming. Time passes slowly here, marked only by the rotating schedule of fights and recovery. The newest addition to our prison is a young pit bull, still showing traces of hope in his eyes. He reminds me of myself when I first arrived, confused, resistant to their cruel methods. I want to tell him to stop fighting back, that it only makes the pain worse. But maybe his spirit is stronger than mine was. I watch him through the chain-link fence, silently praying he finds a way out. There's a particular scar above my right eye that throbs when it rains. It's from my first fight, when I still believed I could choose not to hurt another dog. They threw me in the pit anyway, and survival instinct took over. That night, I lost more than just flesh and blood. I lost the last remnants of who I used to be. The handlers talk about me with pride now, calling me their champion. Each word feels like poison in my ears. They don't see how I tremble after each fight, how I whimper in my sleep. To them, I'm just a machine, a weapon they've crafted through pain and fear. My victories bring them money, but each one costs me a piece of my soul. The worst moments are when families pass by the warehouse, children's laughter drifting through the cracks. It reminds me of my first home, of what life could have been. Sometimes I dream of soft hands and kind words, of running in grass and playing with toys, but those dreams feel like they belong to another dog in another lifetime. The fighting pit sits in the center of our prison, its dirt floor stained dark with memories. Even when empty, I can smell the fear and pain that lingers there. The younger dogs cry when they're first thrown in, but eventually, everyone learns to be silent. Silence is safer here, though our hearts scream with each passing day. At night, when the handlers are gone, we communicate through soft whines and gentle barks. We share our pain, our fears, our fading memories of better days. Some dogs tell stories of their past homes, of families who loved them. Others have known nothing but this life. We find comfort in each other's presence, even though we may be forced to fight tomorrow. There's a small window near the ceiling that lets in a sliver of sunlight each day. I track its movement across the floor, remembering how it felt to bask in the warmth of a sunny afternoon. My body may be trapped in this concrete hell, but my mind still wanders to places where love exists. Sometimes, that's all that keeps me going. The handlers are getting ready for another big fight. I can sense it in their excited voices, in the way they've increased my training. They've stopped feeding me again, believing hunger will make me more aggressive. But what they don't understand is that my greatest hunger isn't for food, it's for kindness. The other dogs look to me sometimes, seeing my size and scars as signs of strength. They don't realize that each victory has left me weaker inside. I wish I could tell them that being strong doesn't mean hurting others. I wish I could show them that our true nature isn't what these humans have forced us to become. I hear sirens sometimes in the distance and wonder if anyone knows we're here. Do they hear our cries? Do they care about the pain behind these walls? Every new sound brings both hope and fear. Hope that someone might save us. Fear of what our handlers might do next. The sun is setting now, casting long shadows through the cracks in the walls. Another day of survival comes to an end, but tomorrow looms ahead like a dark cloud. I curl up in my corner, trying to make myself small despite my size. In my dreams, I'm still that gentle puppy who only wanted to love and be loved. The sound of keys rattling sends a wave of tension through our prison. It's feeding time, but food brings no joy here. As I watch the handler approach with his bucket of scraps, I can't help but wonder, will anyone ever see past these scars? Will anyone understand that beneath this muscular exterior beats the heart of a dog who just wants to be loved? The day everything changed started like any other. Footsteps on the stairs, the familiar jangle of chains, rough hands pulling me from my corner. But something was different. There was an energy in the air, a tension that made even the handlers move more quickly. Their voices were hushed, nervous. Something was wrong. They hadn't fed me for 3 days, making me weaker than usual. Through the haze of hunger, I could hear unfamiliar voices upstairs, the sound of heavy boots on the floor above. The handlers were agitated, rushing between the cages, shoving documents into bags. The other dogs sensed it too. The usual chorus of barks had fallen to anxious whimpers. My cage door slammed open with unusual force. 2 handlers I'd never seen before grabbed my chain, pulling me toward the back exit. The familiar scent of the fighting pit was replaced by something new. Fresh air, closer than ever before. My heart raced as they dragged me past the other cages, past my fellow prisoners watching with wide, fearful eyes. The sound of splintering wood echoed from above, followed by shouts and running feet. The handlers cursed, their grip on my chain tightening painfully. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. The same fear they'd instilled in us. They were no longer in control, and that terrified them more than any fighting dog ever could. We reached a metal door I'd never seen before, rust flaking from its hinges. One handler fumbled with a ring of keys, his hands shaking so badly he dropped them. The sounds from upstairs grew louder, voices shouting commands, the crack of what might have been gunshots. The second handler yanked my chain, hard enough to choke. Suddenly, light flooded the basement, real sunlight, not the weak rays that filtered through our tiny windows. Multiple voices called out, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The handlers froze. I heard the words police and raid, though their meaning was unclear to me. What was clear was the panic they caused in the men who had tormented us for so long. One handler pulled out a knife. I recognized the glint of metal, had felt its bite before during training. But before he could act, the metal door behind us burst open. More lights, more shouts. The handlers released my chain, raising their hands slowly into the air. For the first time in years, I stood unrestrained, unsure whether to run or fight. Blue uniforms surrounded us, but these humans moved differently than the handlers. Their voices, though firm, lacked the cruel edge I'd grown accustomed to. One of them approached me slowly, speaking in soft tones I barely remembered from my puppy days. Still, I backed away, my body tensed for the pain that always followed human contact. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. More people arrived, some in uniforms, others in clothes marked with letters I couldn't read. They moved through the basement, opening cages, documenting everything with flashing cameras. The other dogs watched in confused silence, as lost as I was in this sudden chaos. A new human approached, this one wearing different clothes and carrying what smelled like medical supplies. She knelt nearby, not reaching for me, just talking quietly. The gentleness in her voice stirred something deep inside me, memories of before, of kindness that I'd almost forgotten existed. Still, I couldn't bring myself to trust, not yet. The handlers were led away in shining metal restraints, their heads bowed, their power stripped away. I watched them go, feeling neither joy nor sorrow. They had taken so much from me that I wasn't sure how to feel about their departure. The basement, our prison for so long, slowly emptied of the humans who had made it a place of nightmares. One by one, my fellow prisoners were led out, gentle hands replacing harsh ones, soft voices replacing shouts. Some went willingly, hope already rekindling in their eyes. Others, like me, remained cautious, years of abuse making trust impossible. The woman in medical clothes stayed near me, patient, unthreatening, waiting. Hours passed. The basement grew quieter, emptier. The familiar smells of fear and pain began to fade, replaced by the sharp scent of cleaning products and fresh air from the open doors. More humans came and went, but none tried to force me to move. They left food and water nearby, gave me space, spoke in those same gentle tones. As darkness fell, lights were brought in, bright, artificial suns that illuminated every corner of our former prison. I watched as humans documented the fighting pit, photographed the training equipment, collected evidence of the cruelty that had shaped our lives. Their faces showed emotions I hadn't seen in humans for years: sadness, anger, compassion. The medical woman remained, occasionally speaking to me, sharing small pieces of food. Each time I accepted one, she smiled, not the cruel smiles of the handlers, but something genuine that reached her eyes. My body remained tense, ready for the deception, the pain that surely must follow such kindness. But hour after hour it didn't come. Night deepened outside our basement prison. Most of the other dogs were gone now, taken to places unknown. The sound of their absence was deafening. No more whimpers, no more shared pain in the darkness, just the quiet movements of the remaining humans, the hum of their lights, the soft voice of the woman who waited patiently nearby. My legs trembled from standing so long, but I couldn't bring myself to lie down, to show such vulnerability. The woman noticed, sliding a soft blanket closer to me, not touching, just offering. The fabric looked like nothing I'd seen in years, clean and warm, so different from the filthy concrete I'd grown used to. Every instinct owned by years of abuse screamed at me to stay alert, to expect the trick, the trap, the pain that always followed moments of peace. But exhaustion won out. Slowly, watching the woman for any sudden movement, I lowered myself onto the blanket. The softness against my scarred body brought tears I didn't know I could still shed. A new human arrived as midnight approached, speaking quietly with the medical woman. They looked at me with eyes full of something I'd forgotten existed: compassion. The new arrival knelt slowly, adding another blanket nearby. For the first time since the raid began, I felt my muscles begin to relax, just slightly. The basement that had been my prison for so long was transformed in the artificial light, less threatening somehow, its power broken along with that of the handlers. As I drifted between sleep and wakefulness, I heard the humans making plans, discussing rehabilitation, healing, second chances. Words that held no meaning for me yet, but somehow sparked a tiny flame of something I thought had died years ago: hope. Dawn broke through the basement windows, different somehow from all the dawns before. The medical woman, I'd heard others call her Dr. Sarah, was still there, having stayed through the night. As sunlight touched my scarred face, I realized I'd slept deeply for the first time in years, without nightmares of the fighting pit. Something shifted inside me as I watched her tend to her papers, her movements calm and predictable. When she reached into her bag, I didn't flinch as I once would have. She pulled out something that smelled like food. Not the moldy scraps I was used to, but something fresh and warm. My stomach growled, reminding me of the days without food. Dr. Sarah placed the food halfway between us, then sat back, reading her papers as if I wasn't there at all. This was new. No force, no commands, no pain for hesitation. Minutes passed as I wrestled with years of conditioning, every muscle tense with indecision. Finally, hunger won over fear. I took one step forward, then another. The food was like nothing I'd tasted since my puppy days, soft, warm, gentle on teeth worn from fighting. As I ate, Dr. Sarah spoke softly, her voice a soothing backdrop to this strange new moment. She didn't reach for me, didn't try to assert dominance, she just let me be. And in that simple act of respect, something inside me began to heal. More humans arrived as the morning progressed, but these wore different clothes, bright vests with words I couldn't read. They moved differently too, with gentle purpose rather than threatening intent. They brought strange equipment, taking pictures of my scars, my teeth, documenting what had been done to me. But not once did they try to touch me without permission. A new scent caught my attention. Another dog, but not one from our basement. This one walked calmly beside a human, wearing a bright vest matching theirs. They called him a therapy dog, though I didn't understand what that meant. He carried himself with a confidence I'd never seen. Not the forced aggression of fighting, but something peaceful and sure. The therapy dog approached slowly, reading my body language in a way humans never could. He showed no fear of my size or scars, no reaction to my defensive growl. Instead, he simply sat nearby, projecting a calmness that seemed to fill the space between us. For the first time, I saw what I could become, not a weapon, but a healer. Dr. Sarah watched our interaction with keen eyes, making notes in her book. The therapy dog's handler explained something about rehabilitation potential and remarkable responses. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the hope in their voices. They saw something in me that even I had forgotten existed. As the day wore on, I found myself drawn to the therapy dog's peaceful energy. He showed me it was safe to take treats gently, to allow humans to come closer, to trust in small doses. Each time I followed his lead, the humans exchanged glances and smiles. I was learning a new way to be strong, not through fighting, but through trust. A small human child's voice drifted down from upstairs, not the usual sounds of passersby, but closer. Every muscle in my body tensed, years of conditioning preparing for aggression. But the therapy dog remained calm, and slowly I followed his example. The child's laughter didn't need to be a trigger. It could just be a sound like the birds outside. Dr. Sarah made a phone call, her voice excited as she described my progress. Words like rehabilitation, potential, and remarkable recovery floated through the air. She looked at me as she spoke, her eyes shining with something I was beginning to recognize as pride, not in my ability to fight, but in my ability to heal. The therapy dog's handler brought out something I hadn't seen in years, a soft red ball. Not for strengthening jaws or building aggression, but for play. The therapy dog demonstrated, his tail wagging as he gently picked it up and dropped it at his handler's feet. A game, not a training exercise. A choice, not a command. Watching them play awakened something long buried, a memory of joy, of play for play's sake. The therapy dog brought the ball near me, dropping it within reach. No pressure, no force, just an invitation. My tail moved slightly, not quite a wag, but the first voluntary movement of happiness I'd made in years. As afternoon sun slanted through the windows, more people arrived, someone they called a behaviorist, and another wearing a vest marked rescue. They watched me interact with the therapy dog, took more notes, had long discussions with Dr. Sarah. Through it all, I remained calm, drawing strength from my new canine teacher. The behaviorist approached slowly, arms relaxed, voice gentle. She sat near Dr. Sarah, unwrapping something that smelled delicious. Both humans engaged in conversation, seemingly ignoring me while actually watching closely. I recognized the technique now, giving me choice, respecting my space, letting me decide. Each small decision I made, taking a treat, moving closer, allowing their presence, was met with quiet praise and respect. No one forced me to submit, no one demanded my trust. Instead, they waited, showing me that I had control over my own body for the first time in years. The power of choice was intoxicating. The rescue worker made a call as sunset approached, discussing something called a rehabilitation center. Dr. Sarah's face lit up at whatever was said. More words were exchanged: specialized care, intensive therapy, positive reinforcement. Each phrase seemed to carry hope, though their meaning escaped me. As evening fell, I realized I had spent an entire day without fear. My muscles, always tense for fight or flight, had relaxed. The therapy dog dozed nearby, his presence a constant reminder that peace was possible. Even when new humans entered the basement, I remained calm, watching rather than reacting. Through the basement windows, I could see stars appearing in the darkening sky. Tomorrow, I learned, I would leave this place forever. Not for another fighting pit, but for something called a sanctuary. The word meant nothing to me, but the gentle way they said it, the smiles it brought to their faces, told me it meant safety. The therapy dog and his handler prepared to leave, their work for the day complete. Before they left, the dog approached me one last time, touching his nose to mine in a gentle goodbye. In that moment, I saw my future through his eyes, not as a broken fighting dog, but as a survivor, ready to heal, to trust, to love again. The journey to the sanctuary was my first car ride in years, but unlike the terrifying trips to fighting venues, this one felt different. Dr. Sarah sat beside me on the floor of a large van, speaking softly whenever my anxiety spiked. The world passing by the windows was brighter than I remembered, full of colors I'd forgotten existed. My new home turned out to be nothing like the basement prison. Rolling green fields stretched as far as I could see, dotted with buildings that smelled of other dogs, but not of fear. The air was clean here, filled with scents of grass, flowers, and something I would later learn was hope. Fences existed, not to confine, but to protect. The first weeks were a delicate dance of trust building. Every morning, a gentle-voiced trainer named Mike would sit near my kennel, reading aloud from what he called his morning newspaper. He never demanded my attention, never forced interaction. Slowly, I began to look forward to his visits, to the calm routine of his presence. Food came regularly now, always fresh and plentiful. No more starving to fuel aggression, no more fighting for scraps. Each meal was an exercise in gentleness, learning to take treats softly, understanding that food wasn't a weapon or reward for violence. The consistency of care began to heal wounds deeper than my physical scars. Other dogs at the sanctuary became my teachers, especially a senior retriever named Buddy, who had once been a therapy dog. Like the dog from the basement, Buddy showed me how to be gentle, how to play without aggression, how to read human body language without fear. His patience with my clumsy attempts at socialization never wavered. Physical therapy began slowly, with gentle exercises to heal muscles trained for fighting. The therapist, Maria, taught me that touch could be healing instead of harmful. Each session ended with gentle massage, and for the first time, I understood why dogs leaned into human hands. Pain was no longer the price of human contact. The nightmares didn't stop immediately. I would still wake up trembling, phantom sounds of the fighting pit echoing in my ears. But now, there were gentle voices in the darkness, soft lights that came on to show me I was safe. The night staff would sit nearby, speaking softly until my breathing calmed and fear released its grip. Learning to play was like learning a new language. The first time I picked up a toy without destroying it, the entire staff celebrated. It was a simple rubber ball, nothing special, but the act of playing with it, not as training but for joy, marked a turning point. I discovered that my strength could be used for happiness instead of harm. The sanctuary's behaviorist introduced me to something called clicker training, a way of learning that involved rewards, not punishment. Each small success was marked with a click and a treat. No more chains, no more force. I learned that I could think, choose, and be rewarded for gentleness rather than aggression. Younger dogs arrived at the sanctuary, some bearing similar scars to mine. The staff began asking me to help, noting how my calm energy seemed to soothe these new arrivals. I understood their fear, their distrust. In helping them heal, I found another piece of my own recovery, the ability to turn my past into something positive. 6 months into my rehabilitation, Dr. Sarah visited. The joy I felt upon seeing her surprised everyone, including me. I ran to greet her, tail wagging freely, a gesture that once would have earned punishment, but now came naturally. She had tears in her eyes as she knelt to greet me, measuring my progress in kisses rather than scars. The mirror in the grooming room no longer showed a weapon. Regular meals and gentle care had softened my appearance. My coat, once dull and scarred, had begun to shine. But the biggest change was in my eyes. The staff often commented on how they now held warmth instead of wariness. love instead of fear. 1 year after my rescue, I passed my canine good citizen test, a milestone the sanctuary team had worked toward with unwavering faith. The certificate meant little to me, but the pride in my trainers' voices, the extra treats and cuddles, told me I had achieved something special. I had proven that even a fighting dog could become a gentle soul. My story began attracting visitors to the sanctuary, people who wanted to learn about rehabilitation, about the power of patience and positive training. Some were skeptical at first, seeing only my size and breed, but as I demonstrated my new skills, gentle leash walking, calm greetings, playful interactions, their prejudices melted away. Children now visited regularly as part of the sanctuary's education program. Under careful supervision, I helped teach them about responsible pet care and the importance of kindness to animals. Their innocent acceptance of me, despite my scars, helped heal wounds that no physical therapy could touch. The day I first comforted another traumatized dog marked another milestone. A small terrier, recently rescued from a similar situation to my own, was having a panic attack in his kennel. Without prompting, I lay down nearby, projecting the same calm energy that had once helped me. The staff watched in amazement as the terrier slowly relaxed. Television crews came to film my story, though the lights and equipment initially made me nervous. Mike stayed close, his steady presence helping me remain calm as they documented my journey from fighter to healer. The sanctuary used my story to advocate for other dogs like me, proving that rehabilitation was possible. As my confidence grew, the sanctuary team began training me for public appearances. I visited schools, community centers, and even police departments, helping educate people about animal cruelty and the importance of second chances. Each successful interaction helped change perceptions about dogs like me. My role at the sanctuary evolved from patient to ambassador. New volunteers would learn about positive reinforcement training by watching me demonstrate behaviors that once seemed impossible for a former fighting dog. My gentle acceptance of handling, my playful interactions with other dogs, and my calm demeanor around strangers became teaching tools. 2 years after my rescue, I hardly resembled the terrified, aggressive dog from the basement. Though my scars remained, they no longer defined me. Instead, they became part of my story of transformation, proof that with patience, love, and understanding, even the deepest wounds could heal. Today, as I lie in the sun on my favorite spot on the sanctuary's lawn, I often reflect on the journey that brought me here. The scars on my body have faded, but they remain as reminders of a past that seems like another lifetime. Each mark tells a story, not just of survival, but of transformation from a weapon into a healer. Sometimes, new dogs arrive at the sanctuary with the same haunted look I once carried. When I approach them, I see my past self in their fearful eyes. But now I can show them what I've learned, that humans can be gentle, that touch can heal instead of hurt, that strength doesn't have to mean violence. Through their recovery, I relive my own healing. The fighting pits and basement cages feel like distant nightmares now, replaced by memories of small victories and gentle moments. Each day brings new opportunities to prove that change is possible. When visitors gasp at my battle scars, then smile in wonder as I gently take treats or play with children, I know I'm helping change perceptions about dogs like me. My trainers often say I'm a miracle, but I know better. The real miracle was the patience and love they showed me, their unwavering belief in my ability to heal. Every gentle word, every kind touch, every moment of respect for my choices helped rebuild what violence had broken. They didn't just save my life, they gave me a new one. The sanctuary has become more than just my home, it's my purpose. Each scared dog I help, each skeptical visitor I win over, each child I teach about compassion adds another layer of meaning to my survival. My past no longer haunts me. Instead, it serves as a powerful testimony to the transformative power of love and patience. The fighting dogs I once knew would never believe what I've become. Some days, I can hardly believe it myself. When I look in the mirror now, I don't see a warrior or a weapon. I see a teacher, a friend, a survivor who learned to love again. My strength now lies not in my ability to fight, but in my capacity to forgive and heal. To the humans who forced me to fight, I would say this: you failed. You tried to turn me into a monster, but love proved stronger than cruelty. Every gentle interaction, every wagging tail, every peaceful moment is a victory over the violence you tried to instill in me. Your chains are broken, but my spirit has soared free. My story has traveled far beyond the sanctuary walls, inspiring changes in how people view dogs like me. Each time I help change someone's mind about aggressive breeds or former fighting dogs, I feel a deeper sense of purpose. The scars that once marked me as a victim now identify me as an ambassador for change. The basement where my journey began still exists somewhere, but its power over me is gone. I carry a new identity now, not as a fighting dog, but as a healer of broken spirits, a teacher of gentle ways, a living proof that past trauma doesn't have to define future possibilities. My body may bear the marks of battle, but my heart now knows only peace. To those who look at dogs like me with fear or pity, I wish I could tell them, don't judge us by our scars or our breed or our past. Look instead at our capacity to forgive, to heal, to love despite everything we've endured. For in the end, that's what every dog wants, not to fight, not to fear, but simply to love and be loved in return.